for me, it's putting them into your experience, bringing them into your world, and literally narrating when you're going through it as a mother, as a woman. You know, with my daughter, I would take her with me so she could see what I was doing.
What's up, podcast fam? Welcome back to another episode of the Uniquely Wired podcast. I'm your host, Nani. And on this episode, we are going to talk about puberty in non-speaking autistic girls. And I have a very special guest with us on this episode to talk about her journey with her non-speaking autistic daughter, who's currently in the puberty stage. And
Yes.
so I am so excited to have you, Olivia. So if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Hi guys, thank you, Nani, for having me. I'm currently my non-speaking autistic daughter's full-time caregiver. I actually used to be an inclusion teacher, and not even that prepared me for this life, let me tell you, whatsoever. Being around autistic kids and, teaching them, totally different when you're a parent, and going through puberty, even more so. We've definitely entered a different twilight zone of life. I don't think it's talked about enough, the transition from when they're little to now that we're in the midst of puberty. And I'm excited to talk about that because I don't think we talk about it enough.
We don't. And I feel like I know your girl is so young. She's not even in her double digits just yet. She's 9. And my daughter is 8.5. She'll be 9 in August. And so this is why I was like, I want to have Olivia on because, our girls are right there in age. And as I mentioned to you before, Eliana is entering that stage already. And, her breasts are growing. So many things are growing. And, it's scary. It's scary. I get it. It's a normal thing to happen. You guys that are listening are probably like, oh my gosh, but it's not even that big of a deal. It is a big deal when your child is autistic and doesn't really have that connection to what exactly that means, or perhaps how to manage those hormonal changes, how to manage those menstrual pains, which I get them very bad and I hate it. So I can just imagine, they're just not being able to fully understand. And I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Olivia, I feel like it doesn't matter how much preparation you do, like you just never know.
No.
You have to be ready for the unexpected. And we're not saying like don't prepare. We're not saying that. Definitely prepare the best that you can.
Yes.
But I think also having realistic expectations while you're preparing, realizing that, well, it may not look the way I planned it for it to look.
Yes. And you know what? I have to admit, and I'm not here to like fear monger or anything like that, but in this journey, I realized you have to step into what's real, you know, and the more you accept what is real, the less it'll kind of impact you. One of the things I love to say is, it is what it is, what it is. And that's what this journey is. With her, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't expect it this early. She was 8 years old, only 8 years old. And I remember just, because I would still help her with going to the restroom. And when I was helping her and I saw, it dropped me to my knees because I wasn't prepared. Who's going to think they need to prepare at 8 years old, when your daughter is 8 years old? So I will admit, I wasn't prepared. But one of the first signs is always, once their breasts start kind of developing a little bit, that's when you know it's coming. Or it could come at any moment, even if they're 8, even if sometimes they're 7. And that's the scary part, because it is said that with autistic girls, they're more prone to getting it at younger ages, and sometimes a little bit more intensely as well.
Yeah. And not only that, like I feel like they're pretty much kids. Like, pretty much they can't even live that actual childhood life because now you're pretty much living a much earlier like teen life. Just not a teen, but technically a teen. It rushes you to grow faster. That's what I'm
Yes.
trying to say. And
Yeah.
so, um, my first question will be, what are some unique challenges that your daughter is facing and, currently going through during this stage of puberty?
Well, I mean, overall, the fact that she's non-speaking is a challenge in itself. As it is, we were barely. She's pretty good at going to the restroom on her own, but still needs assistance. And now you're adding this on. It's another task to add on when you haven't mastered the others.
Mm,
So it's the aspect of her needing full assistance with it still.
mm,
Whenever that time comes,
yeah.
someone needs to assist. If
Mm,
it's not me, then it used to be her teacher or her aides. And entrusting someone else to help with that it's just, I can't explain what it does to you, because it's something so personal. And
yeah.
not only that, but the aspect of going back to non-speaking, not being able to express what she's feeling,
Mm,
and how intensely she's feeling it. And sometimes your mind tricks you into thinking, it's just puberty and autism, but every behavior is communication, every behavior. And there is where you really need to put on your detective hat. Like, you know what, this is different. This isn't really her, and
yes.
you can't just blame
Yeah.
it on autism. That is another thing I love to say, that it's not just autism. It doesn't manifestation of a, more severe autism. And that's what a lot of medical professionals kind of attested to.
Mm,
So you have to dig deeper when they're non-speaking as to what is their body communicating to you, their behavior, even
yeah.
their sounds, their stimming. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it different? And you have to
Yeah.
find out what is going on in their little body. And not being able to communicate has been the hardest thing. So having
Yes.
to be able to help her with that, that's where it is definitely the toughest, aside from assisting her with it as well.
Yeah, and I agree. Communication is such a big component. And I feel like a lot of families, that are in this journey along with it, you know, with us and all the things. I feel like, you know, you go to a doctor visit and automatically you mention a concern. Oh, it's part of autism. Oh,
Yes.
it's but not everything is part of autism. Like
The
there's other issues, there's other
health
challenges,
issues.
there's other
Yes.
things that might rise. It doesn't necessarily mean autism. And I think I've spoken about this before. I think the previous interview I spoke about it. Like it's just it makes me sick to my stomach. And then parents are being dismissed because doctors don't want to look deeper into it.
No, no,
They
because
don't
they
want to say,
just,
"Oh, it's a gut issue." Maybe they have an allergy to gluten. You have to become gluten free. Maybe they're allergic to this. This is why you guys, families that are listening, it's so important that you advocate fiercely for your child. I'm not talking about, oh, advocate for this child, which is totally fine. I'm an advocate for the entire community. However, you cannot compare your journey to so and so's journey. Like your journey is unique, is different. And so we all have similarities, of course. We're autism families, right? Our children have challenges, but at the same time, they also have strengths. They also have
absolutely.
strengths. And so, Olivia, I mean, from following me, I am the type of person that I try to not focus on the negative. Doesn't mean it's not there because my kids have their challenges, but I refuse to stick there.
Hmm.
I am a person that I'm living in the present and looking forward to the future with positivity.
Yes.
Because if we decide to sit ourselves and drown in our own negativity, in the challenges, in the negative side of autism, we're just not going to make it. We're
No.
going to be miserable. We're always going to be sad. We're just going to look at our kids like, you feel bad for them. Like, and that's not good. It's not good. I don't think it's good for our mental health as parents. And I'm saying this because it is Autism Awareness Month, right?
Absolutely.
It's April, even though for us, it's an everyday thing, right?
Very everyday
But
thing.
exactly, every single day, 24/7, three
Every
hundred
day.
sixty-five days out of the year.
Yes.
And so, but we also want acceptance. We
Hmm.
want acceptance, and I like to say, which is something I want to talk about this month on my Instagram, is that, you know, I wasn't always accepting. of my daughter's autism, right? And I say my daughter because she's my oldest and she was the first to get diagnosed. It took me a while to get where I am now. I feel like people look at me on Instagram and they're like, oh my God, Nani's such a huge advocate. But it wasn't always that way.
No, you
It,
re-break. It's like you break
yes,
and you build, you break
yes,
and you build. Yes.
yes. It wasn't always that way. And so to go into the real world and face society and see all these different views and perspectives on autism, it's scary, and it could be draining at the same time because you're like, man, I fought so hard to get where I'm at now and how I'm viewing my children to let somebody else dim that light.
Absolutely.
And this is to be an encouragement to anyone that's listening that maybe feels like, oh my gosh, well, this mom posted this. Well, this mom posted this. And so, focus on your journey. There's beauty in your child. I promise there is, you know. So yeah, communication is a big part. And I think that's a big one for us too. For my daughter, she has language. So obviously she's not non-speaking. And I learned that during our mom's retreat that
Yes.
I hosted.
Yes.
And so she just struggles with answering questions, really understanding the question that you're asking. Um, but she definitely has language, but it's still a challenge. It's still a
Absolutely.
challenge
And then
just because she has language.
you have interoception, which is they can't describe what they feel, or maybe they feel something and they don't let you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another hardship, even if they're minimally speaking. But if they struggle with, as it is already expressing when they're hungry or when they're, cold or hot,
Yeah,
and that affects sometimes, the way that they can act. It could be harder even when that time of the month comes as well to express what they're
exactly.
feeling because they don't know what they're feeling.
They don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like my daughter knows the emotions, right?
Yes.
And it's something we're still working on. However, I don't know that she understands all of them. I know she knows what happy is, and I know she knows what sad is.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the outside, she could be happy, but on the inside, she could be sad.
Absolutely.
And
Something
I
else be
think,
going on.
yeah, sometimes she'll put on her device because I'm like, how you feel? And she'll go, I feel sad. But I'm like, you're happy.
Yes.
But, her speech therapist was telling me, yes, she may seem happy and excited, but at the same time, she may be expressing what's inside of her. And
Mm,
so I feel like it's something that, we don't really pay attention to, but
no.
it's so crucial. Okay, so how can moms prepare their autistic daughters, right, for the physical and emotional changes ahead? Like,
Okay.
what's something you will say to that mom?
With that, it's even like I mentioned, too young is never too young. Once you start seeing, okay, the behavior, the mood is changing, once you see any speck of a sign, it for me it's putting them into your experience, bringing them into your world and literally narrating when you're going through it as a mother, as a woman. With my daughter, I would take her with me so she could see what I was doing. I would narrate what I'm feeling, everything. It's like you have to become this like actress, you know what I mean, like all day, and express your own experience and do it again and again. And even if you don't think they're paying attention, they're not hearing, they're not looking at you, they're listening. They really are. And you just need to keep again, 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 what you're feeling, what you're doing, why you're doing it, why this is happening. And that is the first step, bringing them into your own womanhood, to your own world so they can be around it and exposed to kind of minimize, the fear, their nervousness when it comes. And once with that, I think anything visual is so crucial. And there's actually quite a few books out there that you can read to your girls, for if whenever they might be soon to experience this, because anything visual is going to be key, especially for our non-speakers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate that. And you'll have to share with me some books.
Yes.
I
Also,
know we had a mom, I think it was last season, either season 3 or season 4. I think it was season 3. I had an autism mom. I don't know if you follow her, great
yes.
Graciela.
I
Yeah.
think I saw the clip. Yes.
Yeah, so I had her on and she's awesome. And so, her daughter's a little older than ours, but you know, she had her perspective on it, but I know she also mentioned the books, which I keep telling myself, and I think I'm just talking myself out of it too.
Is it
because I'm like,
scary?
this is really happening. But no, I really have to do it. I have to do it. And so please share those books, and I'll be sure to put them down below in the
Yes.
description. So families that might be facing this journey and getting there, or maybe you're there already and you're currently struggling.
And
The
you know
books are
what?
still there.
Don't feel bad asking for help, because as soon as I kind of saw that, once it started, I'm like, you don't want to do it on your own either. In your personal perspective, you do, right? Because you're around your child. But I went and I asked for her autism specialist, I need a social story. Please cater it to her, to her experience, to her personality, because like we
Yeah,
talked about, every autistic girl might experience it differently. There's minimally speaking, there's non-speaking, there's those that can express themselves. So they created a social story that was catered to her, and would kind of like teach, like they personalized it, and they would like kind of teach her like what she needed to do, what it meant. So she felt it was personal. I would
I
show
love
it,
that.
but it kind of got destroyed already since we've already been in this for like a year and a half. So
Yep.
that don't be period is not a bad word. It's
Yep.
not. And you need
Hmm.
all the support and the help with with our autistic girls, especially if they're minimally speaking or non-speaking. It's okay to go and get that support. Go get it, because
Exactly.
you don't want to, oh, it's something so personal, I have to kind of handle it on my own. No, you don't have to do that.
Exactly. And so, this takes us to the other question. What are some communication strategies that can help autistic girls understand and express their needs during puberty? And you just mentioned, those social stories,
Yes.
which is huge. It's huge, you guys. And I'm telling you, it does make a difference. I mean, we use social stories for different things.
Hmm.
So I have no doubt that this can be a huge help. But I don't know if you had anything else, aside from that, that's working for you, anyways.
I mean, besides the narrating, the visual social stories, posting a schedule, like having it in the restroom to remind what the steps are. I think honestly, the most important part is validating. You have to
Mm,
validate their experience. As a woman, you know what they might be feeling based on how they're acting, and you ask, like, is your stomach hurting? Do you have a headache? Go over all the possibilities of pain that they might be going through and validate, because
mm,
our kids, they'll surprise you. And I had my daughter once on her device. I was like, something is up. And it was that time of the month, but it was just a little, she looked more sick than usual. And on her
mm.
device, I took it to her, and she put brain hurts on her device. She had a headache, you know she had a headache. And
Oh,
so I was like, I'm not taking her, and don't feel bad for them missing school if they are in school, because they experience it so deeply. And that's something we need to remember, because of the sensory issues they may have, it's like it throws off their schedule. So their
yes.
experience is a lot deeper than ours will ever be. And we need to validate. To me, that is number one.
Well, to be honest, first of all, I love that. Validation is key. But to be honest, like you just touched something so, so real and so true. And that is that they experience is so different than that of a neurotypical girl.
Yes, absolutely.
And let me tell you, even for me, I don't know about you, but like for me, like when I am on that time of the month, like I am literally dreading everything I need to do that day.
Yes. No one talked
Especially
to me.
the first 3 days. Do not, because I'm coming out. Okay, I'm coming out with the claws. But no, seriously, like
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything. I don't want to cook. My husband already knows. He already knows. And granted, sometimes I do push myself if I have no other choice. And to be honest, as a mother of two, I don't have a choice. So, but if I could have a choice, best believe I'm gonna stay in bed and
No,
I'm just gonna.
yes.
And then you get your cravings. So that's another thing. The school can't provide that.
Oh, yes.
So it's things that definitely need to be talked about, which is why we're
Yes.
doing this episode,
Yes.
because people don't understand our kids the way we understand them. And so I know that for Ellie, I know she's a tough cookie. Like Eliana barely cries. She used to have very severe meltdowns when she was like toddler stage, which she's come such a long way with her meltdowns, and I'm so thankful for it. But again, behavior changes the older they get, the hormonals, you know what I mean? I mean, and granted, I pray it doesn't. However, there's still that part of my
However,
brain.
yes.
Right. There's still that part of my brain that's like, she could be one to be like, I'm here and just, go crazy on me, right? But she is tough when it comes to pain.
Yeah. So
She's not like a big, crier or anything. Now, my son, he's very emotional, which is so funny. You would think the girl would be, but I can't even like put into words forcing my daughter having to be in school. And with that comes the bullying.
yes.
Right? Because things can happen, accidents can happen, and maybe they forgot to roll their pad and now it's in the bathroom and another girl is coming in
And
and now they're seeing. It just baffles me. It drives me crazy just the thought of it,
yes,
Olivia. Like, just, it's scary.
it is. And that's why it's like, again, here, it's not like to fear monger or anything, because you just have to really dive into it to know if you're prepared and you know what might be coming. It's like, okay, it wasn't as bad. You don't want to get hit like a train, right? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
you want to do
Yeah.
your research. But talking about that, and I even like printed little visuals or pictures of it. There's
I
like
love that.
different like types of things that you could use based on their sensory
Yes.
issues, based on their high needs, like
Yes.
there's like period pull-ups, in case that is easier because you're worried about, the whole rolling of the pad and like, the executive function aspect of it. Will they know? Can they do that on their
I love
own?
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, there's so much out there now. There's actual washable
Mm.
underwear that you could use, that can absorb.
Yes.
There's that.
Yes. Oh
There's
God, I'm gonna need that one for sure
Yes,
because
like yeah, like there's because you worry about those things, like who's gonna help her take off the pad? Is she gonna be
well,
able
the
to,
thing is
roll
too,
it?
yes, the thing is too that they're one-on-one. They're not supposed to, wipe your child. They're not supposed to help them there.
Exactly.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand as parents, you can't put that pressure on the teachers. You can't put that
Absolutely.
pressure on the one-on-one aide because at the end of the day, they're not allowed to touch our kids in those areas. They're just not. Not
Nope.
that they don't want to, they just can't. By law, they can't.
Mm-hmm.
So much can happen.
Yes.
Okay?
So you
But
enter a gray area of like, what do we do when this happens?
mhm.
It
Exactly. And so this is good to bring because I know I was that person that I would get so upset. Well, why can't they help her? Like, they're there. Like, why would they just leave her? Till this day, Eliana comes to the house, and as I check her underwear, it has stains. If
mm-hmm.
she did number two, discharge, like, this is just real life, you guys. Like,
It
it's
is.
there. And it's frustrating to me because I'm like, oh, and then I'm hit. I get that sting in my heart that, okay, well, she's not there yet,
Yes.
okay, where she's strong enough to wipe herself good, but that's okay. She's trying. Here she'll grab a
Absolutely.
bunch of paper, and I'm like, okay, I think that's enough. That's
Mine
enough,
used
girl.
mine used to grab a little square. I'm like, girl, that is not. But okay, you know what? She's
She
trying.
tried.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's not trying to. She's like not being wasteful. One little square. I'm like,
Exactly. So what I do is, obviously, like you said, validate.
yes.
Validate. I let her know you're doing a great job, Ellie. Good job. And what we use is I buy a lot of flushable wipes, because
Same.
toilet paper, I mean, let's be real. Like, one, it's not cleaning all the way, and two,
The whole roll
it could get
itself.
stuck.
Yes.
It could get stuck, and since they don't really know how to get it out, it'll just be there.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so anyways, that's fun stuff to talk about, right?
It's
Fun,
very
not fun.
real stuff. It's
It's
very real.
real. It's real, girl. Okay, this is why I wanted to have this conversation because it's
Yes.
so. I know, guys that are listening. Sorry, but maybe you're a single father raising a daughter. Listen, I know there's one out there, right?
Yes.
Get the advice. I do love the idea of the absorbable, right? We know it's not like the most hygiene appropriate or whatnot, but when you think about it, for our children, right, it's very much needed.
Yes. It is. And
It's
you know what?
very much needed.
There's also, I'll be honest, like there's obviously like the pads that have like the wider, like in the very back. But
Yeah.
and I personally, my personal choice, we stick to organic and cotton because
Yep.
my daughter's only 8, 9 years
Mm-hmm.
old to have
Yeah.
chemicals already added. She's too
Mm-mm.
little, as it is already. So
Yeah.
this is
No.
And you
I'm
have to think
organic
of
as
those things.
well.
Yes, you have to
Yeah,
think
I
of
do.
everything.
Yes, yes, because that can affect a lot of things.
The
And we don't
hormones.
realize that because we didn't grow up that way, right?
No.
My mom will always buy the always pad. The older I got, and I would say since last year, because it wasn't since like years ago, since last year when we started making changes on what we buy, where we go shop,
Same here.
I was like, oh my gosh, like always is not good for you. Granted, if that's all you can afford, okay, there's no judgment. You do what you got to do,
Yes.
but at the end of the day, it's really not good for you when you look it up and look at all the ingredients. So I personally use Rael. I think I'm
Yes.
saying the name correctly.
Yes. Yes.
And Cora. Like
Yes.
those are the two that I buy. And so I feel safe with like putting one of those panty liners on her underwears, which I keep telling myself I'm going to start just to also be able to keep an eye on her discharge like better,
Yes.
other than it just sitting on her underwear as well. And that can also be a start as well. When she gets home, I can tell her, okay, take it off. Let's roll it. And the
Yeah.
good thing with Eliana is with my daughter specifically, like she picks up on things quick. So like if I teach her, she may not do it perfect, but she'll pick up the routine. Like this is what I got to
Yes.
do when I go in the toilet.
As long
I
as
got
you're
to roll it,
repetitive. Yes.
throw it in the trash, not
Yes.
the toilet. Not the toilet,
Or
because
visual, you know what I mean? Like just a constant visual as a reminder. And before I
exactly.
forget, one important thing
Yes.
I don't want to forget because I want to share this is if you have like say Medicaid, it covers pets. You can get. I mean, I don't know. Every state might differ,
No, yeah,
but
yeah, they tend to do so.
yeah,
Yes.
so that
Mhm.
is definitely an option. And then you can also try to get the pediatrician to cover
Mhm.
them as like, whenever you need diapers, when you used to get diapers, through the insurance or Medicaid, it could be also through this. So
Yes.
since we were talking
Yes.
about, financially, what can we do? Because I will
Yes.
admit you will go through more of these well, at
Mm.
least with my daughter, she goes through more of these than, a
Then a
neurotypical
neurotypical
child
person, yes.
because of the
Mhm.
sensory issues. It's like
Well,
I
yeah.
don't want to, and we understand that, but for them it's more, they feel it in a deeper level. So that is another thing for sure to have to
Yeah.
consider.
Yeah, that's so good, Olivia. And not only that, also, I don't know if your daughter is the same way, but Eliana is such a neat girl, such a clean girl. Like if she's eating, granted, she won't pick up the crumbs because I'll have to do that. But like if her mouth gets dirty, she's right away trying to grab a napkin and like wipe herself. Like I know when she started at her new school this year, her PCA, her one-on-one was kind of like, Eliana is so clean. Like I don't even have to tell her like grab a napkin. And I was like, it's so funny. She's been doing that since she was little. So I think she just, the sensory thing, she doesn't like to be dirty. So I'm almost quite positive that when she gets to that stage
Yes.
of menstrual, she might be a little like
Yeah, like
getting the ick and all the things.
absolutely. Like you don't think that relates to this, but you kind of as a parent have to think of the patterns that kind of meet, like they meet each other and be prepared. Like you always have to think ahead. And it's awesome that you're already doing that because it's
Yeah,
a high possibility that that's how it's going to be.
I know, I know. And so let me ask you this. I know this is not part of our question. But have you had to go to the endocrinologist, the specialist?
I was there yesterday, actually. Yesterday.
Okay, because Eliana is scheduled for July. Um, and so I'm just interested to know
Uh,
like
and you
how
know what?
exactly, and I mean, I know that every girl is different, but well, every
Yes.
kid, we should say, but
Yes.
since they're so close in age, obviously the doctor wants to make sure she is growing properly for her age and is not too quick. However, I keep telling myself I'm not putting her in on any meds. I think I share this with you.
Yes.
And I get it. This could be very sensitive to a lot of families. And if you need to and you feel okay with doing that, by all means, go for it,
Yes.
right? I'm just speaking for myself, like,
Yes.
and the decision my husband and I have already made. Like, I'm not putting anything on my daughter's body. The reason being is she's still very young. Two, she's never had any crazy medications in her body. I think the most I've given her is like, you know, what's that medication? like, just for like a fever or a
Motrin,
cough.
things like that, Motrin, or like,
Yeah, I mean, now we do different things, but you know what
Barbies.
I mean? Like, but just over
Yeah.
the counter stuff,
Mhm.
nothing like severely prescribed that can disturb her hormones or cause any issues in the future.
See, and that's again what's not talked about enough, right? Because we say like my daughter that's completely non-speaking and autistic, it's like, oh, you have to stop it. I mean, how are you going to manage that? How?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're on the same boat because at the end of the day, there's like a genetic play when it comes to like her and I, right?
Mm,
And I'll share this, it's personal really quick, but
yeah.
I had to have my uterus removed. I had to have my ovaries removed,
Mm,
everything because of how bad I would go through menstruation. And
wow.
it sucks to say, but it passes on to our girls. It can. And that's something that
Mm,
needs to be checked. So if you have a very tough experience with your menstruation as a mother, there's a high
mm,
probability they will too, which that they're already checking her for that,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I my heart broke a little yesterday because the doctor said I wish they would have sent her to us sooner. And the thing is, you don't know
Mm,
what you don't know. At 8 years old, she got sent to a childhood gynecologist. We went there, and
wow.
they
Okay.
did, they wanted to do blood orders, and right away they push birth control. Right away they push. So, stopping it. The thing is, and again, like you said, everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
Everyone's experience with
Mm-hmm.
menstruation, your reproductive system, it's
Right.
all different. But you have to know yours to know what might happen with your daughters too, because we're
Yeah.
connected. And
Yeah.
personally, I don't like the side effects of what it could do to her body.
Yeah.
The things that could arise later on because of this stuff, stopping her menstruation or giving certain medications. It could disrupt
Yeah.
hormones. It could cause, again, it's not about fear, it's about being informed because you have to
It's the
be.
truth. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it
the
could
truth.
cause,
It's our reality.
yes, breast cancer, ovarian cancer. In other words, in everything, look for the side effects. And then not only that,
Yes.
I have a blood disorder where I'm not supposed to take
Mm.
hormones. She might too. You need to check what is going on outside
Wow.
of my
Okay.
own,
Yes.
that can
Yeah.
affect her more, that can, and all
Yeah.
of that. So in the endocrinologist right now, they just sent to do more blood work. And
Okay.
they also did tell us that her height might kind of hinder because she's showing that she's 12 years old even though she's 9 on her bone age with how fast puberty is happening for her.
Wow.
So they're like, if we try to kind of control, not stop her period, but
Yeah.
control her hormones, it could hinder and stunt more her growth. So right now I'm kind of like, okay, let's get this blood work done, see
Mm.
what this tells us, and then what is next, because it is a little scary at how fast she's going through menstruation and puberty and all of that. That also is not
Yeah.
considered normal.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So with you,
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that you already have that scheduled because your daughter's 8, and she
Yeah.
hasn't started menstruating yet. So that,
No, yeah, I think her biggest thing right now is definitely the breast.
yes,
And it's not like, whoa, they're huge. But they're
no, but
definitely
there's,
budding and they're there, where we're
mhm,
putting bras on her. No padded bras though, because I'm like, that's unnecessary.
yes,
So I just do like the sport bra type of things. And so, but I think I'm definitely keeping an eye. The doctor told me, once I start seeing hairs in specific areas, that's when I should be like, more on high alert.
yes.
And so far, none of that. Definitely on her legs, they're showing a lot more, but nothing to the extent where like it can come tomorrow or anything. But I'm definitely ahead of the game because I'm like, let's definitely get this on. And I
No,
know for
no,
me, I got mines at 12. So it definitely took a while. I feel like it was appropriate, like an appropriate age, 12 years old. But like you said, with our daughters being connected to us, that's so true because me and my mom, like I know when I get mines, either she's just finishing hers or she'll be getting her next. Like, and
mhm,
so when we were living together before I got married, like it was always like a back and forth. Then we were always both moody around the same time. Like I couldn't stand having to talk to my mom. Like I was, and I was a teen then too.
yes.
So that makes it a little worse. So yeah, it's definitely a journey. And like Olivia said, you guys, is not to place fear in you. That's not what we're doing here. That's not
Get
what we're
informed.
trying to do.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's informed and it's just reality, and if you
Yeah,
have a boy, you don't have a girl, listen, it's still tough because boys go through their own puberty stages. It
absolutely.
looks different, but it's still a challenge. And so just know that you're also seen. And I am going to have a dad that I'm going to interview next week. We're going to talk about autism fathers matter too, but his son he's a teen. I think he's 17. So we're also going to throw some of that conversation in there for the moms that are raising boys. I know my best friend has her 2 boys, and you follow her, Christine. You know her 2 young kids, her boys are my kids age, and so it's still tough for boys. It's still tough.
Puberty as a whole is
Puberty
tough.
is tough, man.
It's a
It's
whole
tough for any
hormones
child. But you add
changes.
the autism, you add other challenges. It's definitely tough.
It
But we
is.
don't want to discredit that for sure.
No, no, no.
Um, okay, so the last question will be, how can, you know, autism moms like myself and like you support their autistic daughters, right? In building confidence and that independence, um, while navigating this transition.
I think we kind of go back to them knowing that we experience what they are experiencing, and knowing that we validate that, and knowing that we also see them. We see what they're struggling with. We see what they might be feeling, and that we're not just kind of accepting what is. You tell them, I understand, and you're there for them. Don't just kind of like let it be. Especially because I will say sometimes, when your child doesn't communicate, you just kind of forget to talk more, and you have to make sure
Hmm.
that even if they can't talk back in those moments, using their device they can, and here or there, but just keep talking about the experience and how you see them. And one thing is, they're resilient. They're resilient. Never in my life did I think that I would be able to handle this, and much less my baby girl handle that, being non-speaking. They are so resilient. If you just basically, let them know that you see them and you're there for them, they will surprise you on what they can handle, on what they understand. And the confidence they get from knowing, like, okay, mom has also been through this. I'm not just like the black sheep, like, it's like there's something I have in common with my mommy, with my mom. And just building that connection through this as women, because, besides autism or whatever, as women, as, knowing that we both are that. And that's what you got to kind of lean into. And again, praise them, and love them when it's hard in those moments, because, when we're like that too, nobody wants to be loving us either. You know what I mean? Like, like, remember in those moments they need us the most, because again, it's never just autism. It's like their hormones are just, and that's when they need you the most. And
Uh,
serving them in that moment is, I don't know if I told you before, I was humbled because, again, my daughter is higher needs, right? And she still can't do it fully on her own. And there's days where it's just like, I've been doing this over all day, helping her change, wrap, do it. You're like, it's training mode. And I just, like, on my knees, was just so tired. I look up at her and I lock eyes with her and I'm like, she's still such a little girl, that needs me in this moment. And I should be blessed that I get to serve her through this, and be here with her through this experience. So lean into the experience. It's scary, yes, but lean into it and take that like attitude of servitude through it with them, and just hug their heart through it, because it's not easy. It wasn't easy for us. Imagine them. But again, they are so resilient. They really are. So don't be that scared. It's okay to be scared at first, but I promise you, they are so resilient, and they will always shock you and surprise you on what they can do and handle.
uh, man, I'm here holding back my tears because people, I don't think society fully understands um the scariness of it.
Yes,
And
because what it
it's,
also means.
yeah, and when you say, she's such a little girl still. And I think, the world will look at it like, well, she's grown already, but
Yes,
reality is like she's still so young. She's navigating life. And, you know, our confidence is going to stem to them.
absolutely.
And so, however you're looking at life, however you're looking at yourself, they will grow up to be that way. That's just it. And when you say, not everything is autism, that hormonal part of it, it's so like real,
It
because
is.
like I go through like my hormonal changes, and
They're hard, right?
the mood swings, the ups and downs, and it may not be like a whole month thing. It's just during that time, but it's tough. Like I was just telling my best friend yesterday, I'm like, I just been so blah lately, and she's like, I know, I was feeling like that last week too, right? And it's just it just comes in a wave, and I think for us autism moms and dads, like, it's 10 times harder,
Yes.
when we experience those waves of those mood swings, because sometimes it could be so easy to just stay there, right? But reality is we're not meant to just stay there. We're meant to rise up. So I
Again
thank
and
you,
again.
Olivia, and you are being seen. It's so inspiring, what you're doing and how hard you fight for your sweet girl. And just know that I admire that from you, because
Thank you.
I know how much it takes. I know how, the resilient that we need every single day to get up and do what we need to do for our kids. Um, and sometimes people will say, like, don't cry in front of your kids.
You have to.
I cry in front of my
Me too,
kids.
all the
I
time.
do. I do, because it's not easy. It's not easy, but we love them. We love them.
Yes.
And so I choose to see my kids the way that God has created them, and that is with a purpose. Despite of their disability, there is a purpose within them as to why they're in this world. And whatever that purpose is, we are going to help them. We are going to help
We
them. And
are.
so and this is the thing I want moms to understand, and dads, that this is our first calling. This is our first ministry. Motherhood, fatherhood, like that is it. Okay? Everything else comes after. Everything else is just extra. That's what I tell people. Everything else is just extra. This is my calling, to serve my children. And when I look at it, I'm reminded how Jesus served us, you know?
Yes.
Jesus served us. And so when I look at my journey, I'm like, oh man, but he went through tougher. He went through worse. And so who am I to sit here, right? And say, oh, I have a terrible life.
Absolutely. Yes.
What? You know what I
Yes.
mean? And again, I get it. If you're not a Christian, if you don't have a faith that you lean on, I could understand why you look at life that way, right? But for us that are Christians, right, and have a faith in God, like, we know the story of Jesus. We know what he had to endure to die for you and me. And so I have to look at my life every single day and be reminded, you know what? Lord, your sacrifice was so much greater, was so much bigger. This cannot compare to it.
So,
This is just a taste. It's not even a full meal course. It
yes.
is a taste, right? And so when you shift your perspective, thank you, Lord. This was just God,
That's
okay?
what, yes.
When you shift it, you look at life differently. And so this is
Yes.
why you see us, moms like myself, Olivia, other moms that are out there advocating for inclusion and acceptance, is because we have hope. We know where our hope lies on, and that is Jesus. And so that's
And we
not going to
have
change.
purpose. Hmm.
Yeah, and there's a purpose. We're living with a purpose. And so, you know,
And you know what? We need to remember that in his human form, he understood and understands everything we feel, every single
yes,
little thing.
everything.
It's not
Everything.
everything, everything. And since we're getting on this topic really quick, like the verse that gets me through, and exactly like you said, we're here to serve. We're here to represent him. How can we serve?
Yeah.
Is the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And that is what
Mm,
I fight for when it comes to my girl, when it comes to us, because let's be real, here on earth, they are last. But you know what? In our home, they are first. And
yes.
someone else sees them as first too, because the
Yes.
kingdom is different. The kingdom
Mm,
is different, and we're supposed we're in charge of our kids. We were trusted with these children. They're also God's children, you
Yes.
know?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
look into their eyes when it's hard. That brings me to my knees. When I look
Mhm.
into her eyes and I'm like, it just literally brings me to my knees. You know what? I am lucky to serve her. I'm blessed because he
Yeah.
trusted her with me.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
the same
absolutely.
with all of you and with you. We were trusted with them.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Well, I'm just thankful that we were able to do this interview, Olivia, even though y'all, by the way, behind the scenes stuff that y'all don't be seeing. Um my camera decided to act up, so I'm using my MacBook's camera at this moment. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm so sorry if the quality is not the best or if I look super bright for
You
whatever
look
reason.
great. I'm using my
Thank
phone and
you.
I don't know
Thank
if I'm
you.
looking at who I'm looking, but you look beautiful.
We making it work, y'all. Okay, that's all we're saying. The technology just don't be on my side all the time. But we knew we were determined to get this episode out, and so really, I just pray it blesses a family that's listening to it. And please be sure to follow Olivia on her Instagram page. I'm gonna leave it down below. If you have any questions for her, reach out to her. Let her know that you're coming from the podcast. Also, guys, don't forget to share this episode if you're not an autism mom or dad, but you know of someone who's raising an autistic child, share this episode
Yeah.
with them, especially if you know they're entering that puberty stage, just so they know that they're not alone and there is community. There are people that are walking this journey with them. And so, other than that, I will see you guys again on another episode. Thank you for joining us.